will guarantee that you will lose money every single time if you don't follow this. Every time that you're buying a house, whether it's a flip or rental, you gotta follow this inspections. Do not miss it, because at the time that you're missing it, it could be from a $40,000, $50,000 profit to a $10,000 profit or even a loss. And I'm telling you this because I've done over 200 renovations, over 100 flips and rentals. It's all I do all day long. Stay with me here throughout the whole episode because I'm gonna tell you the things that we encounter. And this is based on if you're going to buy a house in the US, whether it's an investment property or a flip or whatever. So stay with me towards the end. In this podcast also, we're going to go very tactical on how to inspect these things yourself or hire someone that knows how to. But also, we're going to go on tactical things on how to remediate this and what kind of expense you should expect for this. So the first one is underground oil tank. Back in between the 18s and until the 1940s, some genius decided that if you put that underground oil tank, it will be a genius idea because they didn't want to put it in the house. They want to maximize the space. And when I say underground oil tank, this means that the boiler or furnace, the machine inside the house that heats the house, needs either gas or oil or water or whatever. So in this case, these machines run out of oil. They don't want to put it on the basement. They thought it was a hazard. They put it underground. Well, the problem with these steel tanks is that they get corroded, and in time, they start leaking. And when they start leaking, my friend, I cannot even tell you. So I have dealt with this a lot, and this is how you should definitely go around it. The first and foremost, when you inspect these tanks, do not inspect from the sides. A lot of cheap companies, what they do is they locate with the underground oil tank. It's, a couple feet from the ground. And then they take samples, but they don't go deep enough. Meaning like this is a tank and then they go on the sides. And typically you might think that is good. Now, these companies are always protected. They say that these readings, oil contamination, are only 99.9%. So even if you sue them, it's 99.9%. It's unfortunately it's like condoms, right? Like, you gotta be careful, right? So make sure that you hire someone, and this is more expensive. They go under the tank, not to the sides, but under. And that's how you know 100% accurate if the tank it's tested, contaminated or not. So these inspections are typically a cheap one can cost $300 to $400, and one that is really good can cost $1,000, $800, $1,200, something like that. So, but it's better if you don't skip this. The other thing is that if you're getting a loan, no bank will lend you if you have an underground oil tank that is not tested. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. So now, what is the problem? What is the cause of this? Let's say that you're about to make $40,000 in the flip. And then for some reason, they have an underground oil tank and the soil is contaminated. Well, a professional will charge you $8,000 to $9,000 every time they have to bring a truck, fill it with contaminated soil, and bring it somewhere else. The problem with this is that you don't know how many trucks it'll need. I have done one, I have done two, I have done three. Each of these trucks are $8,000 to $9,000, which is insane. So that day that happens to me, the first time that happened that I was dealing with this, I couldn't sleep for like 2 days because the guy was going to go there and then he'd say, yeah, we don't know yet. We took a truck and we're going to keep digging because it's still contaminated. It's like my heart. It's like 8,000 or 9,000 ka-ching. And like if you have three and you're making some profit, forget about it. So one piece of advice is when you're buying things like this, make sure that you guys are inspecting really well and also getting a good credit just in case it gets contaminated. Don't ask for like a $5,000 credit. This is not a $5,000 fix. The worst case is the best case is $8,000 to $9,000. And then once you do that, the other cost that we're not talking about is you need an oil tank, right? Because you took one out. So removal of that tank underground is $1,200 typically. Per truck, it's $8,000 to $9,000. And then you have to put one inside the house, which is about $4,000 to $5,000. So if you have everything up, it's going to cost you a lot. These underground oil tanks could be very dangerous. So if you're flipping a house like that, just make sure that you hire a good inspector. The next one, number 2, is septic tanks. And A septic tank is basically a tank that is connected to the house. So on the basement, there's a pipe where all the waste, meaning all the shit, right, goes in there. And then that travels from the toilet all the way down to the basement or crawl space. And then it goes to the tank. And then that tank distribute that into the fields, into a place that you don't want to know, right? You know, it's poop. I meant to say it's poop. Then you never know. So the problem with these tanks are, if you're trying to replace just a tank, it's about $7,000, between $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. And you have two options. You can do either plastic or concrete. I would recommend plastic because it lasts longer than concrete. Concrete, when you have tree roots, the tank start breaking and cracking and all that. And if you want more information, always talk to your septic company. But the problem with this septic is that if you don't inspect it, like a lot of flippers do, I'm going to buy a house with no inspection. The problem is that this could be a $7,000 fix if you have to replace just the tank. But if you have to replace the whole system, the lowest I've seen is $20,000. And they go up to $40,000. Depending on the soil and depending on how hard for a septic installer it goes. So again, do not skip this inspection unless you are getting like $40,000 and assuming that problem is bad, like it's going to be bad. So do not skip this one. The best way is to get, again, a septic inspection. An inspector will tell you if it tanks works or not. I just bought a house without septic inspection. Literally, I'm closing tomorrow. And I'm getting the $40,000 that I'm telling you, just in the case that we have to replace it. If it costs me more than $40,000 for any reason, then it's on me. But I'm willing to take that risk because I'm getting enough of a good of a deal. So do not skip this one. The third one is knob and tube. Knob and tube, I'm going to put some pictures here. I'm going to try. But knob and tubes are old electrical wire that they used back in the day. And again, if you are, let's say, over like 1950s, I think the chances are less that you see a house built in the 1950 or newer. But I've seen it. And the problem with this is that for the most part, you have to investigate where the knob and tube is. So you have to have a licensed electrician seeing the whole house. The second problem with this is that if you have to rewire the whole house, get ready. And the bigger the house and the more bedrooms the house have, the more money you will spend. So typically for a 3-bedroom house, it could be $10,000, $11,000, $12,000. If the house is bigger, it could be more because they have to rewire the whole thing. Now, the other layer of complexity here is that if your walls have sheetrock, like if you have, your house, and they have to run the wire through the walls, prepare, because electricians, for the most part, they don't like to go through the walls. They like to have everything gutted, meaning everything with no sheetrock. They want to have a clean job, and after that, they want you to put the sheetrock. But if you have an open tube on walls that are in really good shape, and they have to run wires, and you have several floors, it just adds up. So the best way to identify this is to go to the basement and check for things like this. You can Google it, what is knob and tube? Now, I'm going to tell you a story that happened to me about a couple months ago on a house that I was flipping. I went to the basement, there was an electrical panel, and then all the cables look good, right? So look updated somehow. But then when my guys started working, this is a 2-floor house. When my guys started working on the house and they start opening some walls, there was knob and tube hidden there. And, we had to rewire certain rooms. Thankfully, it was certain rooms to make it up to code. It was not the whole house. So how do you know? Well, one of the things that you can do is to buy one of these devices that you connect and see if there's an open ground or see if there's anything wrong. And the device that you connect is basically tells you if it's good or not. You don't have to be a master. I mean, anybody can, as long as it says, grounded is good, it's good. Knob and tube typically is not grounded, meaning it's a risk. And if you're flipping a house and the inspector finds knob and tube, you better prepare because the buyers might back out. And that's the whole risk about the whole thing. It's not that it's unsafe. I mean, it is unsafe, but I've seen so many multifamilies with knob and tube, and they have lasted hundreds of years. But one accident can cost you a lot. So please do not play with this. Get a professional to inspect it. And if not, at least try to go in the basement to see if you see nothing too. Fourth one that we're going to talk about, it's water tables. Water tables are basically, you have the ground, you have the house on top of the ground, and then underneath there's water. Now, and it's completely normal, there's water. Now, a high water table just means that the water is close to the foundation. And that is it's basically a big risk. And I'm going to tell you the reasons why. Water tables, high water tables, when it rains a lot, the water starts coming up from the basement. Literally, like it's the ground and then it starts coming up. If you have a rental, you might say, well, if I put a sump pump, which is a machine that pulls the water out, I'm all set. Yes and no. Yes, because it definitely helps, but no, because your basement will always be wet. And if you don't have a dehumidifier running all day long, all year long, you're gonna have mold. And this is very, very dangerous. So it's not dangerous if you're gonna buy a house and live in there because you can remediate. You can have a good waterproofing company, sealing as much as they can, installing a good sump pump with a good battery backup. And as soon as the water comes in, that water goes into that hole and then the machine takes it out. No problem. But if you're going to sell the house, the problem is the perception. And when I say perception is that I had a house that was gushing, like was taking water out every minute, every 2 minutes. And the perception of the buyer is, this sump pump is going to cost me a lot of money to run. This is not a good of a house because if it's taking out, it's not normal that it's taking water out every minute, every 2 minutes. I've never seen anything like that. And number three, the inspector can definitely break the deal. And not only that, the agent, if the inspector doesn't communicate well with the agent, like let's say that you're buying a house and it has a high water table. The inspector communicates to the agent communicates to you, and that communication can break or make the deal. So if you are flipping a house, you must know that you have to solve this issue. And how do you solve it? Good waterproofing, dehumidifier, and a good sump pump. There's nothing you can do. You cannot change that perception. And if you have a rental, you have to be checking or have somebody that checks, every month or every 2 months. I do have a rental. I have a 3-unit that has a crawl space. And unfortunately, the water table is so high. Thankfully, there's nothing in the crawl space. But every single month or two, I have to send somebody to verify that the sump pump is working and there's no water there. Because if the sump pump is not working, the water stays in the crawl space. And that creates mold and all that. So make sure that you know about water tables. Now, what a tactical thing that we can do here to know if there's a high water table? Well, if it rains, let's say that you're looking at a house, and if it rains and the water stays out on the top and it never drains, no matter if the next day is sunny and hot, whatever, then you have a high water table. So make sure that you know about that. The next one is mold. And mold, again, could be as simple to remediate, could be hard to and expensive, and also it's something that you have to inspect very thoroughly. And I'm going to tell you the reasons why. If you have mold, which by the way, there's thousands of like species of mold. Mold is just like, let's just put it this way. It could be green or could be black thing that accumulates when there's a lot of humidity in the space. So let's say that you have a basement and there's a lot of humidity. If you don't get the humidity out with the dehumidifier, then what happens is that accumulates, and that sticks to the wall, especially wood. And the problem with that is that it could be harm for your health, or for your buyer's health, or for your tenant's health. So you have to make sure that you are remediating that and staying on top of that. Now, mold can be solved by literally spraying Clorox a little bit. If it's very light mold and you're just cleaning it well and treating it well. Now, there's some type of molds that will come back really quick because you didn't remediate it well. And sometimes it's black mold. Black mold, like let's say you have black mold in the sheetrock, you should take the sheetrock out and remediate that with a professional because, again, you don't know if it can come back or it can create health issues in the future. If you have a tenant in there, hire a professional. So again, could be simple, could be hard. I have one time a buyer back out because there was just a piece of mold. There was not even mold. It was like algae, right? But anyways, and then that person backed out because there was just like a little piece and they didn't want to deal with it. I said to them, I'm going to pay you for the remediation. I'm going to pay you for $5,000 extra because I just really want to close this house. And they deny it. And they had a good deal and they still deny it. because the people that breaks the deal, it's not typically the buyers. It's typically the agents that don't communicate. They don't want to find a solution. They're very scared of their buyers, and then they just backed out. When a company could solve that really easy, the ball will never come back. It will be guaranteed by the company. Plus, we're gonna give them $5,000 towards the closing costs. I mean, again, one of the things that I do, I don't rely on anybody, unfortunately, for this, because I've been burned 2 times. One of the things that I do is I get a good flashlight, like a powerful flashlight, and I inspect every corner of the basement, every single corner of crawl space, attics, anything that has wood, because if the inspector sees it, you're done, in other words. So make sure that you guys have, if you find mold, remediate it, put dehumidifiers, and get it done. And then the last one, and I think this could be very scary. I think this one is the most scary of all, and it's foundation cracks or settling or bowing. And I'm going to explain what it is. Basically, people freak out because there's a little crack in the basement. If it's like a hairline crack, like meaning you can see the crack, but there's no actually holes in it. There's no depth. I don't think you should be worried. Why? Because these houses are built in 1900s. They'd been standing for hundreds of years. I mean, a long time. And then naturally, the soil moves because the earth, spins. So the soil moves. And naturally, these foundations are cracked. Now, when should you be concerned? I will be concerned of cracks if you can put a coin. If you can put a coin, I would investigate it further. If you can put a credit card, like a coin, things like that. Now, vertical cracks are normal. They should be investigated. But if you see that the cracks are horizontal, that is not good. If you see cracks horizontal and above the window, that is the worst, because that means that the house is settling. The other problem with foundations are that some walls, there's so much. Do you remember the water tables that I was telling? So some walls, there's so much water underground that water is pushing the wall, and eventually that wall starts leaning or bowing. And that is dangerous. Why? Because that means that there's so much pressure there that eventually that water will start coming in somehow. The foundation of the house will be not good. So what are the solutions? First thing that I will do is call a professional, and they will tell you. But don't freak out. And I'm going to take a moment for this, because most people, when they see the crack in the foundation, they start freaking out. And they start freaking out because media and other people that don't know what they're telling you. I was one of them. And one of the things that I can tell you is I looked at is how much it will cost me to repair that. It could be as simple as take measurements of the wall that is like cracked, send it to the contractor, taking a video and saying, hey, give it a take. What is the best case scenario of repairing that wall? And what is the best and the worst case scenario? And then you can make a decision. Most of the times, you will be surprised that how I see floors that are, let's say that I'm walking and I see floors that are very uneven. And when I say uneven, they have like a dip, and people start freaking out because they think it's foundation issues. And they're right. But sometimes the main beam of the house, which is like the large piece of wood that goes right in the middle that supports the house, it's not being supported. Do you know that every 8 feet, you need a support beam? And that is the reason why, this is my trick. This is it. This is the reason why houses start settling. The foundations start cracking. And it's because they don't have that beam. So when you see the basement, what I want you to do is, you don't have to take a measurement. I mean, just roughly see if 8 feet has a beam. Those beams, the thinner beams, are called lally columns. You can buy them at Home Depot, and a professional can install them. Now, the right way to do it is you have to pour cement, which is a footing, and then put a beam. That's the right way to do it. And put a thicker column. That way, there's no settlement. But if you're a homeowner and you're on the budget right now and you're watching and listening to this podcast, just Google lally columns, and you can even do it yourself. I will recommend to hire a professional, but if you don't have the money, do it yourself. You can jack it up, and then don't jack the whole house up. The whole point is that the house is supported. It's not over supported. So the last thing I'm going to say is I'm about to release a brand new book. It's all about flipping, and it's all about flipping the right way and making consistent earnings. It's not about just flipping one house, but knowing what the issues that you found in the house, knowing what are the things that you should be looking, how to fund it, how to find it, how to win more offers, because in this competitive market it's so tough. So stay tuned. It's going to be called Master of Flips, and it's going to be available on Amazon in English and Spanish. So stay tuned. And thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, please let me know. Social media, comment, rate it 5 stars. Just let me know. Until the next one. Peace.